Hi, I'm Matt Fitzgibbons from PatriotMusic.com. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about our Bill of Rights. But first, what are Bills of Rights? Well, they're essentially laws about laws. And where does our Bill of Rights come from? Well, that's an interesting story I think is worth telling. The first English colonies in the Americas were in the early 1600s. So by the 1760s, the Americans living in the 13 colonies had been virtually independent for many generations. They elected their own representatives, they passed their own laws, they even taxed themselves. And they were proud to be subjects of Great Britain. They considered Great Britain to be the greatest nation on the face of the earth at the time because of their tradition of common law and the rights of Englishmen. They were particularly proud of the British Constitution, which was an abstract series of ideas based on the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights, and their legal tradition. And this tradition in England was of balancing power between the king, the parliament, and the courts. And the English Bill of Rights and the British Constitution, these laws about laws, were based on the philosophy of natural rights, which are more important than laws written by men. But the British Constitution wasn't a single document. It wasn't written down, so it was subject to interpretation. And in the 1760s, when Parliament and the King began reinterpreting Americans' rights, stripping away their autonomy and saying that their rights were whatever they said they were, Americans realized that they were second-class citizens, and the war for independence was on. So when Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, he was careful to specify the source of rights. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Which means the source of rights is nature, or nature's God, as he says later. Not Parliament, not the King. But our first Constitution wasn't our current Constitution. It was the Articles of Confederation. By all accounts, it was a dismal failure because the federal government couldn't make the states do anything. As a matter of fact, General Washington and many of the other commanders spent the majority of their time writing letters begging the states for supplies and for troops. The states didn't want to give them up, though. They wanted to protect their own territories from British attacks. But most states, this confederation of 13 essentially separate nations, had their own bills of rights. So when the war was over, the 13 states sent their representatives to fix the Articles of Confederation. But instead, they closed the windows, closed the curtains, and locked the doors, and proceeded to throw it away. And instead, they adopted James Madison's Constitution, the one we currently have today. And all they needed was for the 13 states to ratify it. And the debate split the new republic into two factions, or political parties. The Federalists, who liked the Constitution, this proposed idea, and the Anti-Federalists, who were concerned with two things. One, they said that it gave the federal government too much power. And two, it didn't have a Bill of Rights. The big concern about not having a Bill of Rights was that future administrations would interpret what rights were, and they'd end up in the same situation that they were under the British. So, the Anti-Federalists got their Bill of Rights, and the Federalists got their Constitution. And what the Bill of Rights did was two things. One, it specified what rights were, and two, it limited the size and scope of the federal government. So the collection of writings advocating the ratification of the U.S. Constitution are called the Federalist Papers. And the collection of writings stating that we needed a Bill of Rights were called the Anti-Federalist Papers. And after the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, these are probably the most important documents in American political history. Thanks for watching, and I welcome your comments. I'm Matt Fitzgibbons from PatriotMusic.com.